A former television journalist and anchor at Star News, Shazia Ilmi is an Indian politician and social worker who fought in the anti-corruption movement led by Anna Hazare. She is a core member of Delhi BJP and she is also in the board of various PSUs. She was a proponent of Aam Aadmi Party until she decided to join BJP in year 2015. She has 15 years of journalistic experience during which she produced popular documentaries highlighting the issues of minorities in India. It is indeed our honor and privilege, ma'am, to have you here today. We would like to thank you from the entire team of organizing committee at NCMJ. We are now keen to listen to your views. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, you're on mute. You'll have to unmute yourself, please.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is indeed a very important session. And I'm so glad that the theme you have chosen is, I think, of utmost importance. I'm very grateful to your institute, MIT, for actually bringing this theme, introducing this theme and connecting it with journalism. I think journalists play a very important role in ensuring, of course, the law and order is a function of many stakeholders. And I think journalists are an important stakeholder in the very same purpose of maintaining law and order and keeping the society peaceful. And which is why I think it's important to mention a few things here. I have been a journalist for the longest period. I've been a journalist longer than I've been in politics or in activism. And I did my master's in mass communication, Jamia, way back. And I've chosen to be not a filmmaker in Bollywood, a producer or a director, but to be a current affairs producer and a journalist and an anchor. I was the debut anchor of Star Network. And I think it's so important to keep your sense of inquiry and to realize that, just as companies make profits and people are consumers, similarly for TV channels, you must realize that people also there are, of course, viewers influencing the TRPs, but eventually they are consumers because it is the TRPs that govern the marketing, who's going to, what kind of sponsorships they are getting, what kind of advertising revenue they are accruing on the basis of the viewers. So eventually you are the viewers, you become the consumers. And for political parties, you are voters. So everybody is selling something, you must remember. So as consumers of a product, you must realize that you have a role to play. Just like the preceding speaker said, you have an important role to play as consumers, as voters, as viewers. And you have far more power than you think you have. Which is why I would like to point out that in keeping with peace and inclusion and inclusivity and a sense of that, journalists play a very important role. Whether it's the online warriors, some people, you can be trolled for one and a warrior for the other. Just like there is a militant for one and a martyr for the other. It depends on which side you're on, right? So you must remember that objectivity is the key. If you come with your subjective biases and enter the world of media, you are already depriving yourself of the most important tool, which is objectivity. You have come with a preset bias to start with. And I think that will work against you always. And because there is no surprise in what you are going to say, there will be no sense of exploration in what you're going to discover, because you have already decided beforehand. Now, we must realize that one thing that, you know what happened in the last Republic Day? An anchor of a very important channel said something that was very offensive, and he actually said that that a farmer whose jeep overturned, and that was the reason why he died. Or what was said about him? That the police shot at him. That was not true. And you know, at that point of time, when the tempers were flared, any kind of tensions could have been stoked. It could have led to further mayhem and pandemonium. I think that is a time when journalists could show more restraint and not exhibit the anti-establishment or anti-government bias. That is the time to express more restraint and responsibility. Because if your sole purpose is to play a voter or play a constituent or to belong to one party than the other, instead of being an objective journalist, then you end up really harming the cause of journalism.
There seems to be some network interruption. We'll wait for a few seconds. Well, this is the new normal that we all are used to, actually. So I'm sure Sandeep ji must have drawn definitely something on this network disconnections sometime. But actually, yes, Sandeep ji, please go ahead.
Well, to be honest, I'm not really worried about these network disconnections. The network, the network of society which is being disrupted, which is more worrisome, and which seems to me, I'm into negative art, and that's my profession. So cynicism comes naturally to me. So to me, it's, as of now, it seems downhill, and I hope we are with your active support and with the support of our students, we are able to arrest this slide.
True. Yeah. Very well said. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that. Let me quickly take this opportunity till Shazia Ilmi madam joins us back. She has, I think, disconnected due to technical issue. But meanwhile, let me draw the attention of all these 300 plus people, those who are on this platform, and many more are connected to us on Facebook Live and YouTube. I would like to once again underline a very, very important initiative taken up by our revered Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karatsa, who's the founder and chief patron of MIT Pune and president of MIT-WPU University. And he also holds the UNESCO chair for peace and tolerance. Almost a decade ago, he saw a dream of creating a symbol of which will stand to give a strong message about world peace and humanity. Today, the dream that he saw stands tall to give that message to the entire world. I would like to request my technical team, if they can please take us through a small film which is made on philosopher Sri Gyaneshwara World Peace Prayer Hall and World Peace Prayer Library, the World Peace Dome. Over to you, team.
This country has always propagated one thought, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, my dear friends. I must say that in the entire history after the independence since 1947, this is one of the unique steps towards the contribution of universal humanity. I appeal to the Vice President and Honorable Chief Minister to recognize this World Peace Dome as a structure of national and global importance and support to promote it in such a way that it evolves as one of the prominent tourism destinations of the world.
We should remember and respect like Professor Vishwanath Karat and millions of people like that, and remember the great service they have done. They should be remembered forever. that is also equally important for all of us. This is the message of this dome. This is the idea of the dome. This is the tallest, not only in size, but also in ideas.
But if it takes away the rest of the days of my life and gives me one day where I can come back and look at this magnificent dome, magnificent message to the rest of the world, to me, this is not just the biggest dome in the world. To me, this is the biggest idea, the biggest message to the world.
Science without religion is lame, and we all know this. Religion without science is blind.
जब तक सीता का मान नहीं करोगे तब तक श्री राम का मान संपूर्ण नहीं होगा, आप याद रखिए। केवल जय श्री राम से बात नहीं बनेगी, जय सीताराम कहिए। कहना होता
हमको लगता है कि आज गांधी जी हों चाहे जो कोई हो, सबका इशारा विश्व शांति का है।
विवेकानंद ने कहा है कि 21वीं शताब्दी में मेरी भारत माता ज्ञान का दालन बोल के उभर आएगी। इट विल बिकम अ विश्व गुरु इन द 21st सेंचुरी। उसका छोटा सा उदाहरण, छोटा सा सिंबल यहाँ बन गया है, ऐसा मेरा मानना है।
And I think Shazia ma'am is now back here with us. Ma'am, can you hear us? We lost her due to technical connectivity issue. Shazia ma'am? I think she left the chair, but she is live with us, and which is a good news. So I'm sure she would be back with us. Shazia ma'am, can you hear us now? You're on mute, ma'am. Oh, yes.
Am I connected now?
Yes, you are now back online with us. Please go ahead, ma'am.
I'm so sorry. I'll just make it short because I'm sure there is limited time. So I think there's a big responsibility that we all have on our shoulders. And I think that journalists can't think like politicians. I mean, I might be in politics now, so I fulfill my responsibility as a politician. But when I was a journalist, my responsibility was that of a journalist, and not to do party politics. There's another thing that journalists are guilty of doing identity politics, which is why it really hurts me to hear reports of rapes and murders and various crimes based on identity politics. Whether it's and so I don't know why we should hear of a rape based on the caste or religion of a victim, of the perpetrator, of the particular state where it's happened, depending on which party is in power. It is absolutely abhorrent for me to hear of rape being discussed and trivialized like that. And I think it's whether it's any kind of crime, to talk about Muslim identity or the M factor, and to talk about Dalit identity in a certain way. And I think that's something we don't talk about. And I think we should be open about these things. People feel that these subjects are too sensitive to be talked about. Yet every news report and every news analysis And senior journalists and editors feel no shame in talking about and writing editorials about the Muslim factor in the country, where will Muslims vote, the Dalit identity, the Muslim-Dalit combination. I think it only divides a country. It has nothing to do with inclusivity, a sense of inclusion, or with peace. It only divides our country further into many, many fragments. And it perpetuates this sense of not just disunity, but a sense of belonging that every Indian should feel, especially after 75 years of independence. Our Constituent Assembly and the framers of Constitution, the fathers of Constitution, ensured that there is equality. Should we still talk about it? You know, I heard the Honorable Governor of Kerala say this, that Confucius, the famous Chinese philosopher, was asked by his disciples the path to right action. And you know what he said? He said the way to right action is right words. So unless and until the narrative in media, in public discourse changes, and instead of it being about Dalit identity and Muslim identity and Jat identity and Ahir identity and Swaran identity, you know, and it being an Indian identity, you know, the middle class and the poor, them being talked about based on economic status, and how Indians can be alleviated and pulled out of poverty so that India grows faster. There are all the schemes that there are in India, and there is Sabka Saath and Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. We will not progress. We have done a lot, and we have a long way to go. So I think that is the responsibility of media, not to think like voters, not to think like politicians who think of identity politics, because that is the politics that has happened in the last 75 years. But to think in terms of responsible citizens and taking away the seeds of disunity, but to unify Indians and in fact calling out those Indian politicians who always talk about Indians in terms of religion and caste, and do not talk about governance, do not talk in terms of schools and universities for all, do not talk about roads and highways for all. So I think that is something that they should talk about, instead of always picking on news, and giving so much mileage to rabble rousers. I think that is a big responsibility of media, something that is never talked about. It's considered, oh, it's a sacrilege to talk about. But I want to be the one to talk about it, you know. I think it's important that we call these people out, and it is your responsibility, each one of you, to say that why are these narratives still alive? Why are we still talking about the M factor and the Dalit factor constantly? I think Muslims and Dalits also need the same things as all other Indians need. Better access, financial inclusion, good schools, a safe nation, safety for women. Isn't that what every Indian wants? So I really feel that kind of whataboutery has to be talked about. And I think when one incident is taken up, and that's the only incident that is talked about, whether it's a rape or it's and other states are not talked about only because there is a particular CM from a particular party, and that does not suit the interest of one particular journalist. So I think that just shows the bias. You know, if there is a heinous crime, let's say in the Kisan Andolan, which has just happened, and he's a Dalit who was murdered mercilessly, how come nobody's talking about it? Why should outrage be selective? Why? I don't get that. A lynching is a lynching is a lynching for all and everybody. So I don't know, when you want to go macro, some people go to macro statistics. When you need to turn micro, you get into micro incident and talk about it in graphic detail. You would talk about Hathras in great detail. You would never talk about Rajasthan, where there are highest number of rapes. Why would you choose to ignore that? If you're really a genuine reporter and a critic and somebody who feels strongly about human rights, you would talk about every rape. You would talk about every crime, irrespective of the fact that it's happening in one state or the other. So I think media has abdicated its responsibility, and there is sometimes an overcorrection, because a certain kind of left liberal politics has in media has continued, and I've been there and I have seen it, how indoctrination happens in institutions, and all these these bastions and these academia promote a certain kind of a mindset. I have been one of those who was also brainwashed into believing that these are the evil people and we are the messiahs. Our mindset is what works. And I was totally brainwashed into thinking that, till I realized, no, this is not true. Every situation, every person needs to be, and every ideology needs to be understood by each one of us. Everybody has to be given a chance. Every case has to be decided upon, and every scheme has to be looked at and reviewed by its merits and demerits, and not pre-decided. Just because somebody is saying that, you know, these people are bigots, does not make them the bigots. It makes those who have decided them and pre-decided them as bigots, them the bigots, not those they are calling the bigots. So what is this all about? We have to be keeping alive a sense of originality, a sense of inquiry. This would be my appeal to all the students there, and my humble request that they follow this throughout their lives. Be ready to be surprised. Do not pre-decide. There is so much that you need to unlearn before you learn something. And yes, people who want you to believe the same old cliches and wrap you up in identity politics, tell them this is not the way we want to do our journalism. We do not. We are the new crop, the new generation. We want to see things afresh with new eyes. We do not want to perpetuate the same old identity politics and let it not come into media, because we are not the politicians. We are there to report and observe and critique everybody equally, scrutinize everybody, place everybody under the same scrutiny. We are not there to get up in the morning and just pick out one party for criticism, demonize one person for vilification. We want to give everybody a fair chance, and we want to be critical towards all. That is the way we want to go forward.